All right, welcome in. It is Tuesday. It's time for Full Court Press. It's $5 Tuesday at Wager Talk like it is every Tuesday. I've got a $5 play up for the NCAA Tournament. I'm sure my co-host Rob Bino will have at least one $5 play up as well. Rob, there's nothing to recap because we didn't have any games yesterday, but what I will say, because we did a show, and then you and I did a show on Sunday with Steve Merrill, Kelly Stewart, and Brian Power when we sort of got our first. Well, we literally watched the bracket in real time. I haven't got the fine from swearing on air when Siena drew the 16 seed yet, although I think that might be coming. But the point I'm trying to make is, like, we're 2 days removed from now seeing these matchups, getting to break them down. For me, like, I found myself sort of like backtracking on a couple opinions, but now I have like a far clearer view of what I want to do. I've got 5 plays locked in right now for NCAA tournament games that I feel great about. Where are you at now as opposed to where we were at when we saw those pairings come out on Sunday night?
I think a little bit clearer. There's certain games that we never really got to on Sunday. Believe it or not, in 2 hours, we covered a whole lot of ground, but there's so much territory to cover that I started going through some stuff that we didn't even talk about and find myself landing there. I currently have 3 plays up and available. One, however, is an NIT play. The $5 play has been up since last night and does involve the NCAA tournament. So yeah, and that, to go back to what you said originally, being on something strong. I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday, being on something strong immediately and maybe hedging off or doubling down, whatever the case may be. There's a couple of plays there that, and I mean, let's face it, the Aiden Holloway arrest didn't hurt Hofstra's cause yesterday whatsoever.
Right.
Obviously factored into the new number, but I think I'm probably 50-50. Half the time I'm in the same place I was Sunday, and 50% of the time I'm like, well, you know what? You might have overreacted to that one. Slow down, pump the brakes, and let's rethink this. So it's an interesting process, Adam. And the thing is, we get 4 days basically to, sometimes oversaturate ourselves with information. Sometimes first reaction is great. Sometimes digging in deeper is great. It's such a inexact science, but I like where I'm at right now. I think we see things a little bit clearer than we did Sunday.
Yeah, so this is the Tuesday show, which means we've got 2 games to talk about. We have 8 NIT pairings we can talk about. If someone insists that we go to a tournament game, we'll probably do that as well. As you guys know, on this show, we play off the chat wherever the chat wants to go and wants to talk about. That's where we go, but we always start with a feature game. And I think this is a great example, Rob, of one of those pairings that, like, when it came out, I was looking one way. Now I'm starting to gravitate toward the other side. And actually, as we come on air here, I think I have a stronger opinion on the total in this one, which is rare for me. So let's start first for Dayton, Ohio. NC State taking on Texas. And when these came out, I thought I would I kind of instantly, my knee-jerk reaction was like, oh, I'll like Texas there, because I've liked this Texas team for the past couple months. I've been, you know how it is when you sort of like are ahead of the curve on a team. And I think I feel like I was a little bit ahead of the curve on Texas really starting to play well during conference play. So knee-jerk reaction, I sort of leaned their way. But then I thought back and said to myself, hey, like, you were on NC State in the first meeting between these 2 teams, which occurred this year out in Maui. And, going back to that game, NC State got a lot of easy baskets, crushed Texas at the rim, and Texas went nuts from 3. And, I look at those Maui scores, Rob, and obviously, we joke about the rims in Maui being super friendly. Texas hit 16 threes. We talk about NC State's defense at that time, a disaster. Seton Hall lit them up the day before that game in Maui. So NC State has kind of, even though they maybe weren't the team that we thought Will Wade might have in his first year, I don't think they've necessarily been bad. I also think they've cleaned up some of those issues. But when I look at the way these 2 teams match up, it's hard not to see points again here. So I lean toward the over, but talk to me if you like that and if you've got a clear vision as to which side is the right way to go in this game.
Well, I will agree in the respect that I can't understand why people would play under in this game, and they have. 162 down to 157 and a half kind of makes no sense other than, again, tournament game, win or go home, all those old adages that make you kind of believe defensive intensity will be there. One thing that I would put, I always have a little list here, Adam, assets and liabilities to these games. And, because there's always two sides to everything. There's never a clean handicap where every arrow is in your direction. And if there is, it's a rarity. But the fact that they did have the early season meeting kind of stops me a little bit thinking, well, Will Wade can go to game tape. Sean Miller can go to game tape, and we can see exactly, maybe if there's ways, maybe we can read some of their offensive sets now. Maybe we know what they're trying to do. The problem with that is that both of these guys were first year head coaches implementing brand new systems. And that game was so long ago, back at Thanksgiving time, to where we are now, that they've evolved from where they were. I don't know how useful that game tape is, to tell you the truth, Adam, because when you're a first year head coach doing things differently and you're in like your third game of the year or fourth game of the year, you're doing things one way and you constantly evolve to try and get used to your personnel. A lot of this personnel was brought in, new personnel. So the whole thing was brand new. And now they're in different stages. I don't know if that's useful. So to me, it became, look at the components of both sides here. Listen, NC State has been offensive oriented from the get go. I said it yesterday. Will Wade has said it. That's why I repeat it, that he just hasn't really been satisfied with the physical nature of this team, or lack thereof. Texas, we talked about Fakatitis yesterday, how inside he probably can get his. But these guard matchups, I do have a problem seeing NC State's guards. We talked a lot about Copeland yesterday, his tendency to go one-on-one, but he is a playmaker. And I do think that Texas has problems stopping him from doing the same today. I think NC State can catch fire from three as well as anybody. They've got multiple guys that can shoot it. I think they were either one or two inside the league in three-point shooting this year. Maybe a little too reliant on it. I'm not sure. To my surprise, Sean Miller was, I don't know why I would say surprise. Really, I shouldn't. Maybe that's more Archie than Sean. But to me, Sean Miller was more willing to get up and down the floor. In the SEC, he saw far better opposition than what NC State saw this year. So I kind of give a slight nod there. I would agree with you that if I were to make a play on this game, maybe the number has been pushed down far enough where it's easily time to push back on 157 and a half. You're asking for 79 aside from these two teams and the defenses that they show us. Again, if I thought the game film from game one would be relevant, I'd think differently. But I think that tape, I don't know. Maybe you think differently. I don't know what that's worth at this point in time.
Well, here's the thing. Like, you look at the Maui game, you look at the score, and I think it's easy for us to say, okay, well, that's the Maui. There's always high scoring games there. The rims are soft. It's not odd to see teams and score in the hundreds, but like NC State's defense has been terrible. Like, that's my concern. That I pulled up in the NC State zip up, Rob. I got the DJ Burns year when no one gave them a chance that year. They went all the way to the Final Four. Obviously, totally different coach, different thing. A lot of luck right there. But like the point is, NC State has, they haven't been good defensively. So Texas theoretically should score their points. But like, and this is just a gut feel. Darian Williams is so due to have a big game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was, I went back to the first meeting and now I remember vividly the outcome of that Texas NC State the first game. Darian Williams didn't play well. NC State was right there the whole time, but the threes were wide open. So you can say, oh, Maui, soft rims, whatever. Like, teams can score in that gym, but like Texas, it was just wide open three after wide open three. And even with that, NC State was still right there at the end of that game. And, and so, yeah, like the fact that Wade can go and point that out and say, hey, maybe if we don't let them shoot 25 to 30 threes that are wide open, we probably win that game. That's encouraging to the NC State side, in my opinion. So I can't imagine I'll end up on a side in this game because I've started to swing my opinion toward NC State, but I don't think I'm going to like play back against my sort of initial read on the game. So that's kind of had me gravitating toward the over because I still think NC State's defense is a mess. I think Texas is going to be able to score. They might, if Vokatitis stays out of foul trouble, Texas will have a great chance to win and put up points. But on the other side, like NC State can score right along with them. And maybe this stage is what Darian Williams needs to have a big game because he did not play well in the ACC tournament, and he really has been. I mean, he leads the team in scoring, Rob. He's been kind of a disappointment to me this year. So who knows? Maybe this is the stage he needs to get going.
And I'll give you just really quick here, Adam. First off, let me just say that Texas has not closed the season with a bang. They have lost like 5 of 7. So Texas comes in a little bit limping. And sometimes it's good to have a break, a day off, a couple of days off. But I'm going to give you a couple of quotes that are not inspiring from your point defensively and the point I tried to make about their lack of physicality. But Will Wade is at it again. A couple of things he said. Now it's our time to see if we can do something with this opportunity more than what we've done during the regular season. We've got to clean up the details and the discipline that go with that. And that's going to be a challenge to do that quickly before Tuesday. I don't know that the guy has any faith that they're going to reverse their stripes in this particular game. Therefore, the way to victory, the path to victory is to outscore Texas, which they're more than capable of doing. I think we're both saying the same thing here as far as their scoring ability is concerned. But man, in Texas, the uncommon denominator is they have a post game and the other side doesn't. And maybe Texas does get through. Sean Miller kind of coming up with the same soft quotes that Will Wade had. We lost to 2 teams that didn't make the tournament coming in, Oklahoma and Mississippi. But we've had a couple of days to rethink, to get ready. So I just don't have a lot of faith either side is going to be good defensively here. 157.5, like I said, to start this, a little bit head scratching that there would be so much money toward the under in this game.
Yeah, that's if I was going to play this game tonight, it would be the over, and I would just push back at that market move. You're getting 5 points better than the open right now, and 2 teams that haven't been prolific defensively. I know it almost feels too easy, but I think that move is probably based on someone deciding, man, 162 is awfully high. Okay, I'll take 5 points better to bet a total, right? Like, I mean, I think long term, if you think like that, and you always talk about that on this show, where it's like, can I make a case to oppose a 5-point move? Because like that is probably like a plus EV bet right there if you do that on like a regular basis. So looks like it's got down to 157. I see a couple books have ticked back up to 158.5. But yeah, I could get down with an over in this game. All right, Rob, let's I'm going to go to Garth here. Garth, we're going to stay on your game for today. Maybe we'll circle back to the to that NCAA tournament game, but I'm going to focus on your game for tonight. I'll give this one out because, I think I'm going to sell an NIT play today, and my $5 play that is up on my page is for an NCAA tournament game. So my leg of the parlay, Rob, is going to be the UMBC on the money line. I played it earlier this morning when it got down to pick and minus 110 most places. I wonder if any of that had to do with a tweet from the UMBC Twitter account that's been very, very active the last couple of days, where they were like stuck on the tarmac waiting to leave and get out to Dayton. Do I think that matters at all? No, not really. I mean, I don't think it's whatever. I'm sure a lot of these teams experience like flight delays or whatnot. Not all of them tweet about it. So I don't think that really makes a big deal at all. Where I think this game is won for UMBC, Rob, is that trio of guards: Ace Valentine, DJ Armstrong, King, who has been, I'm not even going to try to say his first name. It's like Jakari with a apostrophe. So anyway, the trio of guards for UMBC, veteran. They've been awesome all year. I noted this year a couple times, Rob, that the America East was quite a bit down from what it's been in years past. Maybe the worst the conference has ever been. But UMBC absolutely dominated down the final five weeks of the regular season, destroyed Vermont twice in that span, who obviously sort of runs the show in this league. And the MEAC, in my opinion, was the worst rated. They should have been the worst rated league in college basketball. So you get UMBC and Howard here. I think UMBC is the better team, and I trust their guards to sort of handle this game enough where they're not getting into just a sloppy type game that Howard can win with their physicality and size. So if that trio of guards does what I think they can do here, control the game, make plays, I don't think UMBC loses. So that's going to be my leg of the parlay. Talk to me about UMBC Howard, though, if you agree, disagree. And also, this is another total that's come down a little bit from the open, not quite as much as the other game.
Yeah, and I played it yesterday, Adam, and I got the better of the number 139.5. I played it over late in the day for reasons that we discussed here yesterday. I just feel like where UMBC is concerned, you play in an America East conference that is filled with pedestrian to, let's say, less than pedestrian type pace teams. Just about everybody in that league is slow. They don't want to go up and down. Howard plays with pace. I think their tempo ranking, adjusted tempo, is inside the top 90 in the country. So for me, UMBC, who I think you've mentioned the guard trio, who I believe is more than happy to get into a little more of an up and down offensively, they'll appreciate that. And I think Howard will come back at them the same. And for that reason, UMBC playing slow to even slower paced teams, I think their defensive numbers are somewhat skewed. This was like the key point I had. Yes, I think both sides have defensive numbers that are somewhat skewed because of league competition. MEAC, I think you just said it. They're ranked. I think they were ranked as the worst conference in Ken Palm ratings, rightfully so. But Howard has gone through a season where they haven't had to play any real threats. UMBC is a legitimate offensive threat. So I think that lends itself to UMBC scoring points. And on the other side of the coin, I feel like UMBC's defensive numbers are somewhat based on the fact that they were good defensively, but somewhat based on the fact that they're just low possession games. And when you play in these games that are 63, 62 possession games, of course, if you're any good defensively, you're going to hold your opponent down scoreboard wise. Howard's not going to play like that. Howard is capable, and I think you even said this yesterday, Howard is more than capable of putting the ball in the basket. And to me, I just thought that, again, the total was predicated on season-long numbers, which are basically dominated by conference play numbers because you play 18, 20 conference games. So obviously they're going to be the heavier part of the overalls. And I thought 139.5 was too low. We have seen the bump back to 140.5. Glad I got in when I did. But I do like it over. I just think that these two teams probably will find each other's styles to their liking, at least from an offensive perspective, and we can get ourselves in some way, shape, or form to a 71-70 game. Or in my case, get to 70-70 and we cover the number here. That's the way I feel. I feel like this one's going to get up and over.
Yeah, so I want to point out, last year's UMBC team played this Howard team. And even though it wasn't the exact same roster, the team was still made up very similar. Last year they had Marcus Banks, who's now at UMass, had a great season. Josh Oduwono, I think is his name, is still there. Obviously Ace Valentine's still there. But the two guards they've brought in, UMBC really hasn't skipped a beat. If anything, they've been able to sort of build on last season to be better this year. And the only reason I bring up last year is they played this game back in November, and UMBC dropped 95 in that game, won 95-77. So I do think that even though that was last year's team, I think the teams still kind of match up similar in terms of the way that they're structured and the way that they play. And UMBC was able to put up 95 and totally blow that game open. Not saying it's going to be, that I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here, but I still think you give me that trio of guards where, like you said, we've seen UMBC go up and down with teams, especially in the non-conference when they get teams that will play that pace. Those three are just veterans that I trust to win a game. Whereas Howard, I think Howard really needs to turn this into a slugfest to win this game. And I don't know that UMBC is going to fall into that trap because you have three sure-handed playmakers that have been putting the ball in the basket at a very efficient rate for 5 to 6 weeks now. So yeah, Garth, I'm with you. UMBC money line. I bought that little dip down from 1.5 to pick. And someone in the chat said, feels like a lot of people are on that and it went down to pick. I don't know if I would, I don't know if that really matters to me here. Listen, it's super public like that. This is the NCAA tournament. The public is going to bet. And that's just, I would put less stock before we get to the next game, Rob. I got to be honest. I think I put less stock into what the public is doing in the first couple round, like the first round of the NCAA tournament, just does not matter. Like in my opinion, if what matters is you playing a line that was playable, like because this is such a big betting event that the public will move some stuff. Stuff will be trendy. It will move because of almost like the public steam. A lot of times will move something. It does not mean like I mean, off memory, Rob, didn't the public just absolutely crush the first couple rounds last year because every favorite one, we just didn't have that many dogs. Like they'll give it back at the later rounds when the books can really, like, there's 4 games and the books can shade it one way or the other. But like Bayou says, this is exactly how I feel. Don't look at the public sharp splits in the first round of the NCAA tournament. NIT, it might help you a little bit more. This tournament is all public money. Worry about getting the side that is the right side, in your opinion, at the right number. I felt like we did that with UMBC money line. So UMBC money line, 4% play for me, and my leg of the parlay. Are you acknowledging the sharp splits right now, Rob, or are you in the same boat as us?
Well, 2 things here, because Kelly asked us this question on last call, either last Saturday or Saturday before it. I'm one of those guys who generally doesn't pay attention to them ever.
Me too.
Ever. Public. I'm not looking at percentages of tickets and money and all that stuff. But I will say this. We made this point yesterday. You're hammering it home right now that there is so much money bet on this tournament by people who don't bet college basketball all season long. This is a bracket fest. This is an absolute must-see type of tournament, and everybody's going to play. Those opinions, Adam, of the bandwagoners are heavily influenced by what they see off the television, right? This guy says that, 12, McNeese is a winner. Got to go play McNeese. However it's hyped up on TV, that's going to sway the money more in this tournament than it sways money in any college basketball game that we see all season long. So a lot of times you can find value if you like another side, because public, like you say, has the ability, because there's so much volume bet by the public that you can find value in a game that maybe they push one way because of what they've seen or heard. I love, if Bayou's in the chat, let me just say that I went back because I wanted to check something really quick on our Sunday live reaction broadcast. And at the end of that chat, Bayou makes a great point. And I think this is what I'm trying to say here. He says, I can't wait to see Nate Burleson's take on these games. And I mean, it's what you're up against here, right? Like people like us would love to know what Nate Burleson thinks about these games, because that's the type of people that they put in their studios to try and influence betting money. So it is different. It's a different betting event. And so therefore, long story short, I don't stare at public money, dollars, tickets, whatever, public sharp splits. I'm just not one of those guys that follows that stuff.
Quick promo. It's Tuesday, so it's $5 Tuesday on the site. I have a play up for $5. Rob will have a play up for $5. But I mean, right now, it makes far more sense to take advantage of that double the CBB firepower package, either 3 days or the rest of the way through the NCAA tournament. I believe for the full package through the NCAA tournament, you have to email into customer support if you want both of us, but they'll work up a nice 2-for-1 for you on there. If you do the 3-day, I think you're going to have access to at least Thursday's NCAA moves, a lot of which, I've already locked in a handful of plays. So check that out for us. If you're looking for this kind of information in written form for your first and second round picks, we've got that up on the website. So check out that package. Garth, I'm going to come to your play in a second, but I'm going to use an earlier NIT game to illustrate, I guess, the point that I was trying to make, where the NCAA tournament is very public. I'm typically not worried about what the public is doing. I'm typically not worried about like a big line move here or there. All I'm trying to figure out is, if there's injury news. But like with the NCAA tournament, we're going to find a lot of that out. That most of the moves that might have occurred based on an injury, you kind of already know what the idea is for the NCAA tournament. Flip over to the NIT, and this is where I'm going to be more put off by, let's say, a 2-point move. Because if you go back to last year's NIT or in recent years, the hard part about betting NIT today and tomorrow in the first round is you don't really know what team is showing up. You don't know if they're going to show up with the same guys they had all season long. Why would that be? Because some of these guys are going to opt out. Some of these guys are going to hit the portal and not want to finish the season with their team. So for me, Rob, I really tread lightly on these first 2 days, or I'll typically bet, if you remember last year, the entire Samford team went on spring break. They got drawn into the NIT. They had to call them back home. They said, guys, got to get back home. We got to go play a game. And George Mason kind of crushed them. They were not ready to play in that game. So let's go to that game. Liberty, George Mason in the NIT tonight, because you have George Mason here, a home team, which opened 6. And this quickly got slammed down to 4.5, where I think it's 4.5, where it's sort of settled in right now. Maybe it gets bought back a little bit, but just before I even get into the breakdown of this game, this is where you really got to start to evaluate potential mindset, in my opinion. George Mason played in this tournament last year. I think they made it 2 or 3 games. I think at one point in time, they probably felt like they were going to go to the NCAA tournament. I was at their regular season finale. They played the best game they've played all year. They blew out St. Louis by 30. I feel like they probably thought they were going to go into the A-10 tournament and make a run, and they got bounced early by St. Bonaventure. So I see the Liberty money. Liberty's probably disappointed, Rob, that they didn't make the NCAA tournament having won their league. How do you look at this from a perspective of, okay, maybe George Mason isn't as interested in this tournament because they played in it last year, or Liberty, they felt like they were going to the NCAA tournament. They are the poster child for one seed that slipped up, and now the dream is over. Who do you think gets up for this game, Liberty or George Mason?
It's always a great question. A couple of things about this tournament, and it's not that it doesn't apply to the NCAA tournament as well, but to your point, Adam, there's always been a philosophy about this tournament that if you get by the first game, Madison Square Garden starts to look better and better and better. So for favorites, in other words, if they have the motivation, if they have the ambition to get through a first game, then generally once they get through the first one, they're like, okay, we can move on here. Now everybody wants to get to MSG. It interested me really quick, the teams that exited or didn't accept bids from this tournament. Belmont, nah, we don't want to play. Virginia Tech, nah, we don't want to play. San Diego State, Seton Hall, Indiana, Florida State, and Oklahoma. This could have been it's a good tourney as it is. Could have been a great tournament if people had accepted bids. I think one of the key things here is days off. You get a lot of mid-majors, low majors, mid-majors in this tournament that played their conference tournaments, not last weekend, but 2 weekends ago. So you're talking about 8-9 days off, rest, rust. That's always 20/20 hindsight. We don't know the answer to that. My handicaps in these early games kind of get simplistic. Oh, yeah, last point I want to make is the total's better. It's always funny to me, but it comes true that when you go down the NCAA tournament board, and just look at every single game and watch which way the total moves. Generally speaking, 7 out of 10 are bet to the under, maybe more. NIT, every game is bet to the over. And they play high scoring games every year, but this is like the over tournament where money is concerned, early betting is concerned. The other tournament, under betting. For me, this game became pretty simplistic because of styles. Neither team wants to run. George Mason's better defensively. Liberty's not bad defensively because they'll get back. They'll take you out of transition. They'll make you play their against their half-court defense. I don't know that George Mason wants to run anyway. They haven't shown that tendency all season long. But I think that they have more shot makers on the Liberty side. If I'm going to play this game, and if motivation is equal, and if pace is equal, and defense, I give the slight edge to GMU. Home floor, we have to give to GMU. Don't know about their interest level, but shot makers, to me, make the difference here. So when I can get this amount of points with a team that can shoot threes the way Liberty can, I'm probably interested in that side. Again, the disappointment. Liberty went out in their first crack at the CUSA tournament. I mean, Missouri State took them out right away. There's got to be a little bit of motivation from them here. So I didn't play it, Adam, but I think my very, very simple lean here is to the team that makes more shots. George Mason has such a tendency to brick that I would rather have Liberty plus points.
Yeah, this is such an interesting one because I'm having I'm having a hard time figuring out what I think. The game's in Fairfax, so that they should typically they got a lot. I'm pretty sure they got a lively crowd for the NIT last year, and that is one place where it's like George Mason's fans like pretty much always show up. I feel like they get very, very good fan support more often than not. So I kind of expect that they'll have. I think there was 8,000 in a 10,000 seat arena when I was there the other day. I feel like they're going to have some people come out and watch this game. But now, like for that big of a move, 6 down to 4.5 very quickly, that's where I got to kind of dig and see if I can get any info on George Mason. Are they going to show up without 2 starters? Right? Like is Liberty going to show up without multiple starters? So I think that is like what I'll be looking for, though. Like if I'm from a handicapping perspective, what you're going to want to do tonight and tomorrow, even if you don't play the NIT, is make notes and see who's not showing up in that starting lineup. Because chances are, if they're out for game 1, they're out for the tournament almost in every scenario. And I remember last year you had a lot of like as it pertained to like Chattanooga, Bradley, guys that like it kept being rumored, oh, this guy might play, and they never played. Because I think a lot of these guys, like they make a conscious effort, no, I'm out for the tournament, and they're out. So that's something I'll be looking at tonight, tomorrow. I haven't played anything yet, but I think that is the approach you need to use with the NIT. Take a look at the starting lineups, see if that guy came off the bench. If 2 of their top 4 scorers did not play in the opener, they're probably not going to play on Saturday, and sort of make your adjustments from there. Let's stay in the NIT and go to, so Garth says his NIT best bet is UC Irvine minus 2.5. This is interesting because UC Irvine went to the final of this tournament last year. I believe they lost in overtime in a very, very good game. And one final thing I'll point out before I kick this West Coast game over to you, Rob, I believe this year the final is at Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. And for the first time ever, it's going to be part of Final Four weekend. So they're actually going to play this game like as part of the Final Four, like Saturday or the weekend at Hinkle. And of course, the Final Four this year is in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil, I believe. I think that's probably where it is. So what do you make of that? Like, that's pretty cool that now, maybe you're not playing to go to MSG. You're playing to basically be part of Final Four weekend. So you will get a chance where all eyes are on you that weekend in a standalone game. And take that discussion right into Garth's best bet, UC Irvine minus 2.5.
Yeah, interesting, Adam. I kept referring MSG, showing off my age and covering this tournament so often. The semis are in Hinkle. The championship is in Gainbridge. which must be where the NCAA final is in Cambridge. If it's on the same, that's playing on the same weekend as the NCAA championship is huge for these kids to get
Yeah.
eyeballs on them, because sometimes the NIT is the forgotten tournament. This year, the NIT, kudos to them to make sure that it's not the forgotten tournament, that you can watch us too. So the incentive to get there is huge. I'm going to backtrack real fast to something that you said about starting lineups, check and see if kids are. We deal with an element nowadays that we never had to deal with, and that is the transfer portal. And some of these kids on these teams, especially mid majors, have their eyes on transferring out. And that's half a reason why you wouldn't play in a tournament like this. You're already have 1 foot out the door. I'm talking with another team already. I'm pretty well set to go somewhere else. I'm not going to play in this tournament. A lot of stuff to consider here, where personnel is concerned. In this game, UNLV made a heck of a run. Josh Pastner got his doors blown in by Utah State, second round, I think, of the Mountain West Conference tournament, but he had that team playing as well as they played. I tell you the truth, that help me remember the game. I know you and I both were up because we were texting about it. UNLV looked horrible. They couldn't even dribble the ball across half court.
It was New Mexico, I think. I think it was when we played New Mexico.
And it was like at that point in time, I'm like, this team is horrendous. I'm never betting them. And somehow Pastner rallied that team to play pretty well down the stretch. Got a Mountain West Conference win in the tournament, and then got crushed by Utah State, which is just a better team. Here, Irvine, I think one of the points you made is very valid. A team, I often use this in a handicap of this tournament. If a team gets close, especially if it's a mid-major, and you get close to winning the tournament the prior season, I think the motivation is there the next season. Now, again, you have to have some of the same returnees on that team, because if your whole squad is brand new, it really doesn't apply as much as it would if you have guys that have been there, want to get back there. I'd like this game over the total for a lot of reasons. UNLV with Pastner playing faster, certainly showed more capability to score. I don't know what their level of interest is in this. All I know is that they did play a lot better down the stretch, and I wouldn't expect that to change. Josh Pastner is a guy who's trying to build a program, and I don't think those types of coaches walk into these games and, a scheduled loss, so to speak. We didn't make the NCAA tournament. They were never going to make the NCAA tournament. So this is kind of a prize to them. Irvine, obviously, a little heartbreak from not being in the NCAA tournament. This game, again, these NIT totals get bashed to the over. 147 up to 152.5. Irvine's still a good defensive team, but man, are they offensively capable this year. And I think these games just get played looser for whatever reason, especially these first round games get played a little bit looser. So I'm looking at UNLV, UC Irvine over the total. Right now, sitting at 152.5. Value may be long gone. That's why I haven't bet it yet and still looking at it.
See, this is a prime example of a game that I'm going to watch intently, because I loved where Josh Pastner's I enjoyed listening to him talk this week at the Mountain West. He had a ton of positive energy. They won their first game. It didn't work out against Utah State, but I don't think there's much of a shame. Like they would have had to beat Utah State for the third time this year. Kind of no shame in getting beat by them. He came out after the game and was like, I want to keep this team together. Like he said it in the post game where he was like, I got to get out and fundraise. I got to figure out what I've got to do, because I want these guys to come back. So I'll be looking at UNLV and what the starting lineup looks like, because if UNLV's got the guys that they have been playing with for the last month now and everyone's in, they might, I kind of think they could win this tournament. But if they show up at the Byrne Event Center tonight, which again should be noted, UC Irvine doesn't get many of these name opponents on their home floor. So this is probably exciting for them to get to host UNLV, which is still a name, enough of a name out in the West Coast. Like, then this is a tough game. But if I'll tell you this right now, if UNLV has their full complement of players, they're very dangerous in this game. And if they win, that's a team I'll target in a later round. But I don't know if Pastner was trying to tell us, like, yeah, I'm going to lose my whole team. Trying to read between the lines. He might have been like, hey, like, I want to keep this team together, but I know that they're all going to bounce. So if that's the case and they show up in Irvine tonight with 3 starters out, then yeah, I think Garth probably has a good bet. That is why this tournament is very difficult. In the first couple rounds, there's plenty. See, here's the way it's going to work. The first couple rounds of the NCAA tournament are your chance to probably make money in the NCAA tournament. The NIT, I think once you get one look at these teams, there's going to be some numbers you can beat over the weekend into the round of 8. So, Rob, I'm going to go back to an NCAA tournament game because a couple people want to talk about this game, and I've got opinions here. Just on this team and then on this matchup in general. So let's go to Arkansas, Hawaii. We talked about this for a minute the other day with Kelly. I kind of knee-jerk. She put me on the spot, and I said, well, the one non-1 seed that I think has a real opportunity to win this tournament is Arkansas. I would even go as far as to say 60-1 on an Arkansas future is a good bet for the price. Obviously, going to have some work to do, probably going to have to beat multiple 1 seeds, but they're kind of the one team I think could do it, and Darius Acuff is an absolute stud. Let's just straight up talk Arkansas, Hawaii, though, for right now. I kind of think Arkansas blows them out. The people in the chat want your opinion on the team total. So Arkansas, Hawaii, anything side or total related for you in this one?
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, and I remember asking you the question, digging into this game. And first of all, it felt like you and I were on an island on Sunday because they were asking us about seedings, who our number 1 seeds were, et cetera, et cetera. And I had said, I think the number 5 team, if you're going in order, should be Arkansas. And it seemed like none of the rest of the panel agreed with you and I on our strong opinion of Arkansas. And it's not, for you, it's definitely not formulated over the course of this past week. And it was formulated way back when you went to the Michigan State game. Mm-hmm. For me, yep. I think the last 10 games of the year, discounting the Florida absolute destruction, which Florida was just on a rampage at that point in time. But in this tournament, you want to win with guards. Here's where I'm going with this as far as team total as I try to look it up. I asked yesterday because I had read an article. Hawaii plays 0 help defense. They don't help on the ball. They would rather rather than leaving a guy open by doubling, they would rather trust their guy to be able to defend. And if a guy gets there's plenty of footage of this where a ball handler, let's say Acuff, gets past his man. There's no help coming. They teach their kids to angle. If you get behind and you're trailing, they teach them to get their body on an angle so that you can block a shot from the side, etc. That being what it is, X's and O's and technical talk, man, I don't know if you want to play no help defense against Arkansas. I mean, some of this stuff, when you watch it in very slow motion, which we don't get to see during games, show you a wide open lane and show you that mid-range, which Arkansas is good at, mid-range, and then lob passes are wide open against this Hawaii defense. And to me, it's just a bad matchup for a Hawaii defense. And then I asked myself, and Hawaii's a veteran team, but it's a mixed match veteran team. Like they got transfers from all over the place, junior college, D2, etc. Kudos to them for coming together the way they did, but I don't think they can score if they get behind Adam. You always have to figure if we're behind angle. It's nice to say Hawaii might be able to slow down the pace here. I don't think they can. Arkansas is going to dictate to them. But then I always ask myself, to these people who say, slower game, less possessions, bet the dog. I say to myself, well, what if that dog is behind by 12? What are they going to do with their slow possessions? Now, at some point, you have to try and move and score and catch up. And in this case, I think the snowball effect happens. I don't know. And Hawaii was a really good team in conference this year. I just don't know that they match up well with this team. They needed a different opponent. For me, I would like Arkansas in the game. We haven't, the odds maker probably came out with a really good number here, Adam. They made it
Agree.
high
Yep.
enough to make you think twice. Team total in this instance is 87.5. That's even high enough to make you think twice. Can you get to 88 against this team? And Coach Cal has been here so often that he kind of knows how to manage the Thursday, Saturday, Friday, Sunday, the whole 6-game deal here. So I wouldn't be surprised if Acuff and company if they're winning by double digits, end up sitting the last 3 minutes, end up sitting the last 4 minutes, because Cal knows how to manage his players for the game 2 days later. Like Arkansas, just don't know that I can get there at this price. Don't know that I can get there at that total price. But Hawaii, I think, has drawn a very, very as bad a matchup as they could draw. I think they drew here against Arkansas.
Yeah, Garth says he likes the first half team total under on Hawaii, 35.5. I'm pretty much going to be, I'm with you, Rob. I think the books absolutely nailed the number here, 15.5. I think I was at right around there, like 15.9 or something like that. Had this been like 11 or 12, I'd be all over Arkansas. I still think if you forced an opinion out of me, I think they probably cover the 15.5. And I'll go as far as to give you another bet that I really like. My buddy CT, Chris Thurston, CT Bets on Twitter, emailed me, or email. We don't communicate very. I don't know why I just said email, Rob. Texted me last night and was like, hey, Arkansas, roughly minus 140 to make the Sweet 16. Do you like that? And I started to compute and calculate a little bit, and I was like, oh, I absolutely love that. That's a great bet. I think he said he ended up laying minus 145. I had that priced over $2. I don't think there's a chance that Arkansas loses this game. I know Coach Cal lost to Oakland, but like I read a little bit about that too. Like, oh, maybe Hawaii will play a zone. It's like it would be a bad zone defense. Greg Kampe, all he does is play zone. That was like a moment that he prepared for 40 years to beat Kentucky. Just throwing Hawaii, just throwing a zone out there that they've played only a handful of times this year. How's that going to you really think that's going to deter this Arkansas team? I don't. So I will likely like Arkansas in the next round as well. They might, if High Point pulls the upset, they're a huge favorite there. They're probably a 4-point favorite against Wisconsin. So I will give that bet for the show. It's not going to be a client play, but Arkansas to make the Sweet 16 at minus 145. I've got that priced at closer to $2. So that is a bet I like quite a bit.
I can understand it for sure. Their only problem in that bracket to me is going to be that they have to play Arizona. And I kind of like Arizona to win the whole thing. That Arkansas-Arizona game, if it happens, will be really, really nice. Sorry, I couldn't give an opinion on that team total one way or the other, but I think, again, if I'd have seen 84.5, so very, very identical to what you were saying about the point spread. If you'd have seen a 12, you'd have been on Arkansas. If I'd have seen an 84.5, I probably would have been on team total over. Asking for 88 is a lot.
All right, Rob, let's bring it back to today. I'm going to give you the floor. Let's go two-teamer today. We had good luck with the two-teamers last week. Parlay of the day over the weekend, we hit 2 of 3. Akron fell a couple points short from making that a parlay winner for us. So why don't you lock in a parlay leg from tonight to go with mine earlier, and then maybe we'll go to one more game before we're off.
All right, so we talked about a matchup earlier, George Mason, Liberty. And the equivalent of that matchup out west is Seattle St. Thomas. It's almost the same matchup, right? Yeah. Seattle kind of equates to GMU. St. Thomas equates to Liberty. I just think that for me, St. Thomas will have the motivation. Not that Seattle won't. They're at home as well. But I think St. Thomas will have motivation to play well here. And I just don't know that until you get hit with the amount of three-point shooting that St. Thomas has, I don't know that you kind of know how to deal with it. And Seattle hasn't seen it. And I don't know that Seattle has seen it in conference either. Play in a very good conference, play very good teams. I can honestly say that I don't believe Gonzaga lines up with the amount of three-point shooting that St. Thomas has, nor does St. Mary's, nor does Santa Clara. They're all better teams. They just play different styles. I was a little bit reluctant, Adam, to take the points in this game, just because Seattle's going to be motivated too, and they're a good defensive team, et cetera, et cetera. But I like the St. Thomas team total. I really feel like there's going to be a half here, and it may be the first half, and of course it could be the second half because St. Thomas is going to have to adjust to the rims in this gym. But you're asking a team to have four guys basically go cold all at once in one night. I just don't see that happening. The number here, because the total was low for St. Thomas, I believe was 71.5 or 72.5. Let me just get it right for the viewers here so we can lock this play in. I'm staring at St. Thomas team total over what's currently 72.5, pointed toward the under. So you can probably take this point down and get even money. You probably at 71.5, you could probably lay very little juice, which may be a better way to go here. But I think St. Thomas can find their way to 73 against Seattle. I honestly do. I think there's enough shooting on this team. Their offensive explosiveness has been on display all season long. The counter argument to this play is, you know what, Rob? There's going to be few possessions in this game. Seattle doesn't want to go. St. Thomas doesn't want to go. But I always come back with the same argument to people who tell me that, Adam, is that if you're extremely efficient offensively, I don't care how slow you go. If you're scoring 1.1, 1.2 every time down the floor per possession, who cares how slow you go? You're going to get to where you need to get to. Here, it's not a heck of a lot. I never handicap this in. But in games like this that are lined at, 3 or less, overtime is always a chance for you. It's a small percentage chance, but you always have overtime to help out. So for me, it's going to be St. Thomas team total over 72.5. And I can advise, guys, if you want to, like I say, this at 72.5, the over is like minus 0.5. And in some cases, $1. You can get down to 71.5 and lay 15 cents, 20 cents. I could recommend that option as well. But for purposes of the show, we're going to go 72.5 under minus 115.
Yeah, I mean, that's a game I'm very interested to watch. We'll be rooting for your over. I don't know if I'll have a side play there because, quite frankly, I see merit to both teams. It's going to be at the Red Hawk Arena. So it's going to be in the small on-campus facility, not down at Climate Pledge, as far as I know. May give them a little bit more of a home court edge for that game because that building is very small. They've pretty much Seattle's pretty much gone the Villanova UConn route where they're like playing half of their games at Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle and the other half in the very tiny Red Hawk Center on campus. So this one is Red Hawk Center. But I really like that St. Thomas team too, Rob. So like I'm not really dying to lay points against them. Going to be a great watch, and we'll be rooting for your over. So rather than sort of ramble on that game where I don't have as much of an opinion, I will throw one more game out there from the NIT that I do have an opinion on, and I'm sure you are going to as well. So Auburn is playing in this tournament. Props to Auburn. They could have just declined it, and it would have been the thing to do, but I think that's a really good move by Stephen Pearl to like maybe build up some goodwill in the basketball community and kind of almost show like, okay, like, no, let's go prove that we got snubbed, right? We can go out. Theoretically, Auburn should win this tournament. If they care, they should win this tournament. AM 441 here. Let me pull this up. He says Auburn minus 17.5. This line should be Auburn minus 20. Happy to lay it. I'd be I don't know if I'd lay 20. Honestly, I thought this line was way too big, and I'm kicking myself for missing that opener of 19.5. Because if you remember, Rob, last year, Richie Riley threw a fit when they were invited to the NIT and then told that they invited too many teams and that they couldn't come. Oh. South Alabama got left out of the NIT, and he was hot at that happening because they really wanted to play. Now they get there this year. I think this kind of feels like a reward to them. Like they get to go and play at Auburn. Like that's got to be a big deal for another in-state team right there. And at worst, at least with Richie Riley, you're going to get that zone. And Auburn's probably going to have to sort of light it up to cover that number. So I actually leaned the plus 17.5. I'm mad that I missed the number. in that one. I think the dog is live to hang around there. What do you think? South Alabama, Auburn, anything on the total in that one as well?
Well, I'll say first and foremost that this is a real moment for Stephen Pearl. Because if his players walk out on the floor and don't care and win this game by 3 or lose this game straight up or whatever, that's not good. Coach is trying to build something here, and if his players don't care about being here, that he didn't do his job. So we'll see. He should have them motivated. South Alabama motivation, obvious in this case. Again, you talked about being snubbed last year, but just the in-state little brother type of deal complex that they'll have is huge in that game. Total wise, Auburn has not been good defensively all season long. South Alabama does have capability to score. This game to me is underpriced total wise. Why Auburn, excuse me, if motivated, why they wouldn't get to 80 plus at home is beyond me. I think they're more than apt to give up over 70 to the other side, closer to 75. So to me, I thought that total was underpriced. Don't know if I'd play either team total. I'd rather not exclude either one. But again, it's a lot of, it's understandable. And I want to go back really quick to your first point about kudos to Auburn for playing here. It's understandable. I read off the list of teams that didn't. Understandable why Belmont didn't. Casey Alexander flew the coop. Okay, we're in disarray. We can't really play. But another SEC team like Oklahoma, who I really wanted to see in the NCAA tournament field, I wish Porter Moser had chosen to play.
Well, I think they went to the Crown instead, so they are playing.
Oh, did they? Okay,
Crown. Yeah.
Okay, good. And they're going to let us bet on the Crown this year.
Yeah, they're going to let us bet on the Crown. Yeah.
Virginia Tech, Seton Hall, Indiana, et cetera, down the line. So kudos, just to reinforce your point, to Auburn for showing up and playing in this tournament. We'll see if Stephen Pearl can motivate and if these guys are ready to go.
Yeah, I was my number was much closer to where the line is now. I was at like 16.4. And again, I'm just kind of, those numbers came out NIT like a little bit later on in the day yesterday. And I wasn't really dying to lock anything in yet, just because you want to try to, scour for info, make sure that you've got a team full of guys playing. But yeah, I'm kicking myself. If Auburn takes money, then that goes back to like 19. You may see me jump in with the dog. And I just go back to last year and how disappointed that Richie Riley was when his team was included in the NIT and then basically had their bid taken away. And he was just like, came right out and was like, this is like these players are crushed. Like they wanted to play in that tournament. And so, yeah, I kind of almost think that how could you not be fired up for this game if you're South Alabama? Like, you had to get through the Sun Belt gauntlet to go to the NCAA tournament, and that was always going to be really tough. And now you're getting to go on the road and play your SEC in-state foe in this game. That to me is like, I'll be shocked if you don't get South Alabama's best effort here. And even if Auburn comes to play, like, what's to say they're just going to totally torch that zone, which is always organized. Like Auburn could win in a blowout, win this by 14, and you still cover easily. So, yeah, I like the Jaguars, South Alabama on the road tonight.
Let me backtrack to a point we make, because while you were talking, my screen just lit up across the board universally with Howard, Maryland, Baltimore County being bet up 2 points from 140.5 in some cases to 142.5 where the total is concerned. So I'm thankful for playing yesterday at 39.5, but it looks like heavy money just piled in on over in the Howard UMBC game.
They watched the show. That's all I can. That's only real explanation for that. They waited for the Rob Vino stamp of approval and they went and bet the over.
Amazing.
That's what I think right there. All right, so I'm going to give out one of my plays for tonight. It's the only thing I've bet so far. It's a 4% client play for me. I am on the UMBC Retrievers -110. And for Rob Vino, the other leg of our two-teamer today, St. Thomas team total over 72.5. Maybe we'll get crazier later in the week, but we rattled off a couple of two-team winners last week. So I feel like we got to kind of stick there for now. So one more time, two-team parlay for the show. UMBC -110. That's a client play for me. And St. Thomas team total over 72.5. same show tomorrow, 10 a.m. We'll look at the first 4 games for tomorrow. We'll try to get to the NIT games. And if you guys insist on a tournament game for Thursday or Friday, we'll go there as well. Very much appreciate you guys tuning in today and every day and the whole season. Let's have a great March and bring this home, and we'll see you guys in the morning.